You're listening to The Rant.
Welcome to a brand new beginning, you sorry shits.
Bigger and better and stronger.
Better. Way better. Been better.
Oh, hello. I know, right? Whose balls did I have to...
Excuse me?
Number one bullshit guy.
To The Rant.
This is such a crock of shit.
Sorry to keep you waiting, complicated business.
Imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know?
You're listening to The Rant with David King.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Rant. I am your host, David King. It's good to be here with you. A little bit of a hiatus since our last episode. I apologize for that. But it is good to be back with all of you. I'm jumping in behind the mic because I want to rant about this, and I've been seeing it pop up. If you're a fan of college football, if you follow college football pages on Facebook, you're going to start to see the resurfacing of the Michigan cheating allegations. And the college football off season, I think, is probably the worst it's ever been. It's the worst it has ever been. Because nobody is talking about college football, really. Here's the last three headlines that we've had to talk about with college ball. We've talked about why Shedeur Sanders didn't go in the fifth round, and I might touch on that here in a minute, or why he went fifth round in that first round. We're hearing about how Nick Saban's concerned about college football in the NIL world, right? And then now we have Michigan back in the conversation about cheating. And I know that the Michigan State University and the Ohio State University Buckeye fans are just ready to pounce on it because that's all that they can talk about. Now, I will say this. Michigan State fans, far more rational than Ohio State fans. They're not in droves lining up to post their memes and talk about the hammer is coming, the hammer that we've had to listen about for the last 2 seasons. The hammer's coming. It's on its way. Who gives a shit? Why do you care so much is my question. Your team just won a national championship. Why in your off season? You know what? Last year when Michigan won the national championship, the only thing that I thought about all season long, 2 things really. One was, man, what a fantastic year of football that was. That was so much fun to watch. My program, the program I love to watch, Michigan, went 15-0, and just it was one of the best Michigan football teams that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Probably will never see a team like that ever again. Not saying we'll never have a team that talented ever again, but just the overall mentality, the locker room atmosphere of that team was something that I've never seen really anywhere. You know, it felt like old. It took me back to like maybe the old days of like the Detroit Red Wings when you had like the Russian Five and there was just this sort of charisma atmosphere. There was this sort of, what's the word you would use? Oh, I can't think of it right now. But it's this chemistry that everybody on the team has. And it's like the stars align when you have a team like that where everybody's just jiving and they're close, they're connected. It's like a big family, but they're playing like they're all like one person, right? It's one of those things where everything just kind of comes together and makes for this perfect team. And that's very rare. in all of sports. You don't see it very often. You see these kind of snippets of it where it's like, this is working, but that's not working, or this is good, or this is not good, or you have all this talent, but the locker room's in chaos, kind of like an LSU situation prior to Brian Kelly getting in there. Although I would make the argument that maybe there's still some chaos going on down there. We could talk about that for sure. But that was what I thought about, because I was like, that was some of the best, most exciting, intense, and stressful and fun football to watch. And then, of course, we had to deal with the fact that we lost our head coach. Jim Harbaugh took the job over at the NFL. We knew it was coming. Everyone's like, he's running because of the cheating. It's like, for the last, I don't know, for the last 6 years of Jim Harbaugh's career, all we've ever heard in the offseason is this the year Jim Harbaugh goes back to the NFL? Is this the year? Is this the year? Everybody kept spreading rumors. And then some years he goes, oh, yeah, we heard he's fielding offers from these 3 NFL teams. But the year he finally does it, everyone's like, oh, he's leaving because he cheated. It's like, no, dude. He did what he set out to do. Jim Harbaugh rebuilt the Michigan program from scratch, something that very few coaches can ever do. He rebuilt that program, and then on top of that, he led them to a national championship. Albeit, yes, with some controversy. We'll get into that here in just a minute. Ohio State fans right now should all be sitting around laughing, enjoying, cheersing each other. What a great season. Albeit you had 2 losses, one being to your rival at home. Nonetheless, you still won a national championship. Thankfully for the Buckeye faithful, they had expanded the playoffs to allow a 2-loss team like yours to get in and win. And nobody will ever take away the fact that you guys went on a trounce in the playoffs. I mean, you want to talk about a smack freaking down. And personally, it is my opinion that should have been Ohio State all season long. There's no reason why Ohio State should have been a 2-loss team last year. I blame Ryan Day, personally. And I'm going to get into why. Well, I will touch on that a little bit more as to some explanations about why Michigan became what Michigan was and everything else, kind of where this podcast is going. But I blamed Ryan Day for those 2 losses. I don't blame Ohio State Buckeyes because you guys are loaded with talent. There's no reason why you should have been a 2-loss team. And thankfully, and I said this in the previous podcast, the expanded playoffs let the best team in the NCAA win, and that was Ohio State. Ohio State was the best team. I am a diehard Michigan fan. I am going to say that right now. Do I have a biased opinion on things? Absolutely. When I come onto my podcast, or any podcast for that matter, if I'm sitting in on one, I try to be as impartial about anything I'm talking about as I possibly can. But I'm a human and I'm always going to have some bias. That being said, I mean, I grew up near Ann Arbor. I mean, that's just the way it goes, guys. I don't like Ohio State, but I will always give credit where credit's due. Just like I did prior to Urban Meyer's departure at Ohio State, I always gave credit where credit was due. Ohio State was a very good program. Dominant program. Urban Meyer, as much as I don't like the guy, I think he's kind of a scumbag. He's kind of just sleazy. He just looks like I don't know. He just looks like he'd steal my wallet. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the vibe I get from him. I still gave him credit for being a very good coach. He was a great coach. Probably top 20 coach, top 15 coach, maybe better. I don't know. We could have that argument. But he did a lot of really great things over at Ohio State. Obviously led them to a championship. Had them in the conversation just about every year. So he was a fantastic coach. Okay? So I'll give credit where credit's due. And I did. Ohio State always looked really good. It was frustrating to watch. I was always frustrated by it because meanwhile, we were dealing with our problems. And I'd like to touch on that. There's a meme circling around. Like, okay, first and foremost, let's touch on the Sharon Moore suspension thing. What Michigan is trying to do, all this is, guys, is the NCAA is essentially the mafia. I think we can agree or disagree on the cheating controversy at Michigan. Let's put that aside for a second. I think we can all agree that none of us really like the NCAA. We would all agree that we'd love to see the NCAA just go away. Their rules are archaic. They're kind of biased. They pick and choose when they want to enforce something or not enforce something. And I think Ohio State fans are probably going to hear this and scream, "Oh yeah, no shit. They're not going to. They may not enforce their rules on Michigan." Because in the back of every Ohio State fan's mind is that, right? They're all keep saying the hammer's coming, but they also know maybe in the back of their head that there is no hammer coming, and that's going to frustrate them, and it might frustrate some other people in the college football world, but whatever. So we all can agree that the NCAA is kind of an archaic, good old boy system, somewhat kind of mob mentality, kiss the ring sort of thing. And I think that's what Michigan is trying to do. Michigan is trying to get ahead. All the staff are pretty much gone. The only leftover from it that I can think of off the top of my head in this moment is Sharon Moore. So what they're trying to do is say, look, to appease the gods, we will sacrifice him for 2 games. We will suspend him, and hopefully that'll get the NCAA offer back. Will it? I don't know. We'll see. It depends on how much of a witch hunt these guys want to go on. Now, we already know that the CFP has said, and the NCAA has already said that Michigan won the national championship fair and square. They said it right after the game. There's a million articles on it. Google it. You can see where they said it. It literally said, nobody can say that Michigan didn't earn this title. They didn't win it fair and square. They did. So that's never going away. Unless they are willing to go back on what they've already said, the national championship is here to stay. Will they, get rid of some of their wins? I don't know. I doubt it. Again, the violations that they've committed don't generally merit that sort of thing. It's going to merit suspensions, maybe postseason recruiting privileges, things like that. It's really not the violations. The penalties for the violations that they supposedly have committed are really not going to be that drastic. That being said, there is a meme going around now that shows, and I don't know, I could probably pull it up. I don't have my phone with me now. Oh, that's good. I left it in the other room. Anyway, we come prepared on this show. There's a meme going around that shows Jim Harbaugh's record prior to 2020, prior to what they would say is the cheating scandal era of Jim Harbaugh. And he's 0-5 against Ohio State. Now, from an outsider's perspective, from like the person who doesn't follow Michigan football, because you're not a Michigan football fan and we don't expect you to understand or even follow or know the details. Just like I don't know all the details of Ohio State or Michigan State or Illinois or even Georgia or Alabama. I don't have the full picture because I'm not a diehard fan. I'm not following it regularly. I have been following Michigan football for my whole life. Okay. From an outsider's perspective, it would appear, and I can understand why it would go, oh, well, obviously they cheated. That's why they got better. Because if you look at it, Jim Harbaugh struggled against top 5 opponents and could not beat Ohio State for about the first half of his career, his time at Michigan. And so if you look at it, you go, oh, yeah, no, totally. Look, they started cheating. Look, they started winning. That makes sense. So yeah, from an outsider's perspective, I can understand why people, besides Buckeye fans, I can understand why some people would think that that's the case. But if you follow Michigan football and you watch the trajectory and you followed along with the process and you were keeping tabs and you were kind of ingrained in what was going on with that program, you would understand why Michigan got better after 2020. And the reason why is, first and foremost, Jim Harbaugh, he inherited a dumpster fire. Okay. We didn't know how bad it was. We all as fans knew that Michigan was in a very bad place, which is why we were so excited to pick up Jim Harbaugh. I mean, Jim Harbaugh's he's a great coach. He's got a phenomenal record. Everywhere he's gone, he's had success. Nobody can argue that. Facts don't lie. So we were so happy to pick him up, but we didn't realize just how bad things had gotten until about 2 to 3 years into the program with Jim Harbaugh. just to backtrack, it started to fall off with Lloyd Carr. Lloyd Carr was getting old. The landscape of college football was changing. Michigan was still a really great team, but they weren't consistently the best, right? They lost to some opponents they shouldn't lose. They were kind of a 10-2 team on average, sort of thing. So Lloyd Carr was slipping off, so he retires. Michigan decides that they want to go in a completely different direction. They want to be kind of, they're seeing the new spread offense, right? This is back in the early 2000s when like the spread offense and the Wildcats and all these things are really starting to take off and they're really popular. Michigan wants to get on board with this. So they hire Rich Rodriguez to be our head coach. And Rich Rodriguez, for better or for worse, I'm sure he's a great guy. And I will give him credit. I think he would have been a fantastic offensive coordinator at any program, especially in Michigan, because he ran a dominant offense. I mean, hell, Michigan was putting up record numbers on offense in terms of touchdowns. The problem is, so was the other team. They were putting up the same amount. It felt like we were watching basketball and not football. It was just a shootout to see who could score as many points before the clock ran out. That's really what it was. And the reason for that is because Rich Rodriguez, is, from what I can remember, he did not recruit a single defensive player on the team. I don't know if he was totally zero, but I want to say it was either the defense was complete walk-ons or mostly walk-ons. And anybody who follows football, anybody who knows the Big Ten, like you're not going to win games unless you have a defense. Defense is number one in the Big Ten. I think the last 2 years have kind of proved that, because when you look at like Ohio State, who's just so talented offensively, when they have lost to Michigan, it's because Michigan has been better on defense, right? And even Ohio State had to go out and find a better defensive coordinator a few years back to combat this, because Ohio State, for the longest time, in my opinion, just from an outsider looking in, they were so offensive heavy that they weren't the best on defense. So they brought in that defensive coordinator, who left, by the way, I believe at the end of the season. I think he went to Penn State, if I remember correctly. But anyway, they started to see it, and they started to develop and get a better defense. And they've kind of honed that and fine-tuned it. I think they figured it out here towards the end of this last year, which is why they won the championship so handedly. But anyway, so that really put the program back. Rich Rodriguez he turned the Michigan football program upside down on its head. He set the program back, in my opinion, and we didn't really know it at the time, but I think he set the program back about a decade at least. And not just because, if for no other reason, just the recruiting. Michigan started to fall behind in recruiting. They weren't performing very well. And at that time, when players were looking at where they wanted to go play football at, they wanted to go play for a team that was winning national championships. Well, you had Alabama, who was basically, a rising star in the early 2000s. And then you have Ohio State, who has just remained consistently a great team since the millennium, since 2000 and on up. Ohio State has been, you could say what they want with their controversy or losing coaches, they have remained consistent in terms of their performance. And so Michigan always has to compete with Ohio State in the Big Ten for recruiting. Okay. And I think Rich Rod set it back pretty far. Now, Brady Hoke was hired after all that. They fired Rich Rodriguez. They brought in Brady Hoke. Brady Hoke, good coach, great coach, not the coach we needed at that moment. I look at Brady Hoke a lot like Ryan Day. I'm not saying that they're both the same in terms of their skill or performance, but they are good. They're coaches that could take over a solid program and operate it just fine. Brady Hoke is a coach where if he had inherited Michigan, I think after Lloyd Carr, he would have had more success. But because he inherited such a bad program that was just so far behind in everything, in terms of recruiting and talent, the offense is completely messed up now. He's inherited some of Rich Rodriguez's offense, and he's inherited no defense. And the one thing I will give Brady Hoke credit to is he rebuilt the very poor, he rebuilt Michigan's defense. He got Michigan's defense kind of back up and running. He got the engine kind of running again. So inevitably he was let go. So when Jim Harbaugh took over the Michigan football program, what did Jim Harbaugh have? He had a pretty solid defense, but he had a very weak offense. And the reason for that is because Brady Hoke was like, okay, I don't run a spread. That's what Rich Rod did. So now I've got to bring it back to this sort of old school, blue collar, pound your nose in the ground football. And I've got to find the talent. I got to build the talent. I got to develop that talent. And, it's hard. It's hard to do. And Brady Hoke just wasn't up for the job. Jim Harbaugh gets in. Everybody's excited. Jim Harbaugh comes in and we're all stoked. We're like, finally, we got a great coach. He's a good recruiter. We're going to get some good talent in here. And he started working very quickly. And he took a few years to get it go off the ground and running. But ultimately, Jim Harbaugh started finding success pretty early at Michigan. I'll pull up the record. Michigan football. Okay. So I will say that under Jim Harbaugh, they've had pretty good success. They've had a lot of success. His first season, he went 10-3. That was complete opposite from Brady Hoke's final season. Brady Hoke went 5-7. Prior to that, he went 7-6, and before that, he went 8-5. Brady Hoke's first season was 11-2. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, see, if you had just kept Rich Rodriguez on board, he would have finally found success." No, that's not really the case. I don't think so. But anyway, Brady Hoke fell off pretty quick. Jim Harbaugh would go on to have 2 seasons right away, 10-3, 10-3. And then he had an 8-5 season. And that's where you start to see some of the developed talent under Hoke and Rod, like the offensive talent stuff, all starting to kind of fade off. And this is now basically what I would say the first year Jim Harbaugh got his own team, starting to have his own team. Okay. And he goes 10-3 the following year. Okay. Now he has struggled. And the stats don't lie. Like he struggled. He was 0-5 with Ohio State. Now what was, and then after 2020, he got better. Well, why is that? Is it because they cheated? I don't think so. I really don't. Here's the reason why. 2 major things stick out to me when we talk about where Michigan was and where they needed to be the team that could compete in the top 5. Because look, 10-3, 10-3, 10-3. Obviously that includes the loss at their bowl game. So they were 10-2, 10-2, 8-5, 10-2. All right. From Jim Harbaugh's average is 10-2, right? So first year 10-2, second year 10-2, third year 8-5. Not a great year, but again, that's probably the first year with his new talent, and he's developing. Second year 10-2, sixth year 2019 9-4. Okay, so he's kind of in this weird area. Here was the number one problem that Jim Harbaugh had from the time he got to Michigan till 2020. He never had a reliable quarterback. Our quarterback program was rough. And it was tough to recruit quarterbacks because you're competing with some schools, like even Ohio State. Like if I'm a quarterback coming out of high school, and in this era of the CFP, right? Because that's another thing you're kind of competing with, because you're in this weird world. You can't technically pay players yet. So if I'm a player coming out of high school, I'm a quarterback, right? And I want to go to the NFL, and I know I've got the talent. I'm a 5-star, I'm a 4-star quarterback. I want to go to a program where I can shine. And so you're looking at your sheet, right? You got like this sheet of schools, and you're looking at the stats, you're looking at obviously some quarterbacks, they already know what school they want to go play at because it's their school, right? But there's the other guys that are open, right? They're thinking, I just want to go play ball and go to the NFL. Obviously, Alabama was going to get first pick, right? Nick Saban, Alabama. You want to shine. You want a chance at a national championship. If you had to go to a place that had the best odds of getting you a natty and spotlighting your talent, that's going to be Alabama. Now you may have to sit and wait a year, but you're going to get developed. You're going to do well. You're going to get your time. You know that, right? So Alabama got first pick. Then you had schools like Georgia. Georgia was the same way. And then you had Ohio State. So the Ohio State might be a direct competitor with recruiting with Michigan. Okay. So Jim Harbaugh struggled to recruit quarterbacks. He was doing the best he could. He obviously was trying to develop these guys. And that can be a huge game changer for any program. So Jim Harbaugh, over the course of the time he got here to the time he left, he was always building the offense back up. Always. And he started to get the talent in place. He started to get the linemen in place. He started hiring good coordinators. Another thing he did towards after, I can't remember when, but he started bringing NFL level talent for coordinators, guys from the Baltimore Ravens, like Jesse Minter and everyone else. So that was another thing that really helped out. He started getting really good coordinators. He got in a really good, physical fitness, the guy that weight trainer, personal trainer for the team. So he starts building this sort of army around him. He starts finally recruiting their good talent, but you got to develop that talent. And that's what he was doing from that 2017 at 8-5 on up. He starts to get his players in place, his staff in place. Now he did have a lot of turnaround too. People were coming, people were going. That's normal. But the biggest issue that I can recall in those first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So that's right. The first 5 years of Jim Harbaugh's career, the biggest thing that I can recall with us was every year we just weren't sure what the offense was going to be like because we never really had a solid quarterback. And I can remember in 2019, my dad who follows Michigan football closer than anybody I know, he told me, son, you don't worry. Because I was like, man, I don't know, Dad. If Jim Harbaugh can't do this, then nobody's going to be able to get this program back up and running. We didn't realize how bad it had gotten. But I was seeing little sparks here and there, like, oh man, we are just so close. Every year under Harbaugh, Michigan was getting better. Now the scores may not reflect, right? If you're looking at the overall WL record, you might go, I don't know, man. It's kind of hit or miss. It's like, no. Trust me. Every year it was, we're doing really good here. We just need what? We just need A. We just need B. We're so close. We just need this. We need this component, this player, this position. And ultimately, the one at the very top, the number one position that we always really needed was a solid and reliable quarterback. And my dad told me, he said, don't worry, son. I'm following this kid. I think JJ came from California. He's like, I'm following this kid. He's a stud in high school. He's phenomenal. He's already committed to Michigan. He's a 5-star quarterback. He loves the program. He's already told everybody, don't worry, I'm coming. We're gonna make this thing great. And I said, all right, cool. I'm excited. You know what I mean? I'm totally stoked. Finally, 5-star quarterback's going to come to Michigan. Obviously, 2020 was a washout. 2020, everyone goes, well, look how bad they were in 2020. Jim Harbaugh was such shit. He was going to lose his job if he kept playing. Listen, they couldn't even practice on the field together, guys. Like, 2020 was such a fucked up year. Like, are you really going to include all the stupidity of 2020 and the pandemic and everything that was going on? I mean, these guys were sitting on Zoom calls watching them practice. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a team that you're developing and you're starting to get new talent in there, do you really think that that's going to be beneficial when you have programs like Ohio State who have been steady and heading on the right course and have been dominant for the last decade under Urban Meyer? No. So, yeah, that year was a washout. And another thing, so now Jim Harbaugh has his quarterback. He's got his team. All positions filled. We have a deep running back core. We have a decent wide receiver core. Obviously, nothing like what Ohio State ever brings to the table, but we have wide receivers that can catch. But beyond that, we also have really good tight ends. Like Jim Harbaugh kind of redeveloped the tight end program at Michigan because that was something that Rich Rodriguez didn't really use because Rich Rodriguez was all about the spread. It was all about speed. So these guys were a little smaller. Jim Harbaugh loves his tight ends. So we got some great tight ends over at Michigan under Jim Harbaugh. Some of the best, I think, in college football. Got great defense. All the pieces are in place. Now we just have to keep developing and keep moving forward. And that is exactly why things turned around the way they did. Another reason why, and I think this is a huge factor, and as much as I hate to admit it, Urban Meyer left Ohio State. At the same time, Michigan started to get better. As soon as Urban Meyer left, what happened? Ryan Day had a dub, and then after that, he started to lose. As soon as it became more of Ryan Day's football team, things changed for Ohio State. And look, I don't know how many of you guys will admit that. I mean, first and foremost, all of you wanted his ass fired before the playoffs this year. So I don't want to hear no shit from any of you. All right. The fact of the matter is Ryan Day is not the coach that Urban Meyer is. Ryan Day inherited a very dominant Ohio State program, and it took him 6 years to get a national championship. He had a few breakout years there where they were in the playoffs and they had an opportunity and they almost beat Georgia. They missed that one by a field goal. So you could kind of say he had some glimpse of hope. Just like when Jim Harbaugh inherited his football team that was pretty bad, he had some years that were better than others, some glimpse of hope, right? My point is like Ryan Day should have continued the dominance as far as I'm concerned. I think Ryan Day's just an okay coach. I would not bet on him to go to another program and rebuild it from scratch. I don't think he has the ability. I think he has the ability to take a playbook and just execute it, right? There's people in this world. I look at it this way. Like when you look at like managers, there are managers where they will execute the playbook with perfection. I know somebody like this. They're not creative. They're not thinking outside the box, but they will execute with perfection. In other words, the plan, like the event that they're managing will go off without a hitch. It'll be perfect in terms of its execution. Like it'll work out, but it might become stale and mundane and people might lose interest in that event over time because the person who's running it doesn't have a good kind of creative outside the box mentality of how can we be better? How can we change? How can I adapt? Give them the rule book, give them the playbook. They'll execute it with expertise. Those are people who just follow direction very well. And then you have people who follow direction well, but they think outside the box and they can change, they can adapt, they can move things around. I think Urban Meyer, I think Nick Saban, these are coaches that can do that. These are coaches that could take over a program that's not doing very well and rebuild it back up. Jim Harbaugh is one of those coaches as well. They can take Jim, and don't tell me they can't, because Jim Harbaugh's done it everywhere he's went. He did it over at Stanford. He's done it with San Francisco. Everywhere he goes, he builds a program back up. So that's the reason why there was a huge flip. Everything came into place. I think it would have happened sooner. I think it could have happened in 2020. Michigan had two solid quarterbacks in 2021 with Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy. He could have played either one. I personally think he should have played J.J. I think we would have maybe had we might have had I don't know, might have had like a 11-2 season maybe, or 11-1, season. Under JJ might have had a loss somewhere in there just because he didn't have the experience yet. But I think he would have been more prepared. He would have been more prepared under for the next two seasons, at least the postseasons, than he would have been. I think 2022 would have been a much different outcome at the Fiesta Bowl if JJ had a little more experience. But nonetheless, there was a lot going on there. And he goes, the cheating thing is everybody in the end. Listen, every football team from some degree or another was doing what Michigan did. Connor Stallions was like, he's a hard charger, man. That guy's a Marine. When you want shit done, you call the Marines. He did it. Supposedly. I mean, we've got some pictures circulating of him on the sideline looking at Michigan State. I guess he was at the Michigan State Central Michigan game, and he's over there, hanging out, watching the game. I'm like, okay, so fucking what? Like, this is my point. Like, first off, nobody needs to have Michigan State signs to beat Michigan State. Michigan State has been just a crap program for the last 5 or 6 years, probably longer than that. Since Mel Tucker took over at MSU, they went downhill fast, and then they fired him. They got this new guy, and they're still not that much better. So I'm like, okay, advanced scouting. What's the difference between advanced scouting and watching game film? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. The NCAA was going to remove the advanced scouting rule. They were thinking about getting rid of it. They go through and they look at all their rules and they think, are some of these still relevant or not? And that was one of the ones that was potentially on the chopping block. They kept going back and forth on it. They weren't sure because when that rule was implemented, only really bigger and wealthier programs could afford the equipment and the travel to go out and advance scout. So the NCAA said, well, that's not fair for the smaller programs that don't have the funding. So we're just going to not allow it. For that reason alone, no other reason. Just because they thought not everybody can do it. Well, now everybody has a cell phone in their pocket. Most games are on television. Air travel's cheap. I mean, you can go anywhere, and I can drive to Ann Arbor to East Lansing in, no time. It's easy. So everybody can do it. Everybody does it. This is why I always point to if you ever want to know the truth about anything, just look at what people are doing and what people are saying, right? The college football landscape as a whole, when these allegations came out, obviously the media took off with it because the media needs something. Okay, they live and die by the sword of what is content. You know what I mean? And so the media, of course, is going to pick at this up and go, oh my God, did you hear Michigan? Michigan's got a cheating scandal. Michigan. Now we've got headlines for the next 3 to 4 weeks, possibly longer. This is going to pay our bills. So of course they picked it up and ran with it. And they wouldn't shut up about it. But even they, after Connor Stallions is let go and Michigan goes on to continue to dominate and win, and not only just dominate, they got better each game. They statistically got better. They didn't get worse. Most times when a team is cheating and they're caught cheating and they've had to cheat to win and the people who are doing it are let go, guess what? They don't get better. They tend to either stay the same or get worse. They tend to start losing games. Michigan got better. And they went on to go 15-0 and win a national championship, which was a tough stretch there because they had to play Alabama. And then they weren't sure who they were going to play in the Natty, but they played Washington. My point to that is even the media at the end of the season said it's quite obvious by the outcome of Michigan's season that their sign stealing allegations had no effect on the way they played these games. Every major talking head said that. Every major talking head said that. From Fox to ESPN down. That they said this is a nothing burger. All right, well, now let's look at the rest of the college football landscape. Who else is saying anything? Well, first of all, Deion Sanders, he was asked about it. He said, man, you can mail me your playbook. I still got to stop it. He shrugged it off as it was no big deal. This is a man building a program in Colorado. You think he wants to play against teams that might have the upper hand against him? No. He, of all people, should be like, yeah, this is bull. Like, they should be allowed to compete. But he didn't say that. He said, look, it's nothing. This is nothing. Give me your playbook. I still have to stop you. I still have to have the talent and the execution to stop whatever it is you're bringing to the table. I didn't hear anything out of the SEC. Most of the people, I live in Georgia now. I'm in the heart of the SEC. You know what most people say to me? They'll give me a hard time about it. They kind of razz me, but they move on. But look at the coaches, Kirby and Saban and everybody else. They didn't say a word. You didn't see Nick Saban go, well, you know what? These are a bunch of cheaters and they shouldn't even have been here in the playoff to begin with. Nick Saban took his L like a freaking gentleman and announced his retirement. Why? Because they all do it. Everybody does it. And the NCAA, they know it. They know that Georgia's done it, that Alabama was doing it. They probably know deep down that Ohio State does it too. And Ohio State fans, they don't want to admit it, but I guarantee you that was going on. There's allegations circling all over the place that Ohio State was giving signs to other programs. Or that there was an allegation, I might be getting these all mixed up now, but that the Iowa Hawkeyes were giving Michigan signs prior to the Big Ten championship game. Or someone gave the signs to TCU. And that's why they played so well against Michigan. Maybe. I don't know. It could be true. I think Michigan lost to TCU because Michigan played like JJ had the worst game of his career. Hands down. Worst game of his career was that game. And you're just never... It goes right back to what I said. This is a team sport, but if you don't have a solid quarterback, then your offense falls apart and you're not going to win the big games. You got to have a balanced team. You have to have a good offense and a good defense if you want to compete against top 5 teams. And that night, we didn't have a good quarterback. He just had a horrible night and we lost. And even then, they scrounged back and almost came back, but it was just not enough. And that just goes back to what my original point, which is Michigan never had a solid quarterback until JJ came. So they recruited Cade McNamara and JJ. And they had a good, deep quarterback field. Suddenly now, the offense is clicking. The offense can score and play. And when your offense does really well, guess what? It takes the pressure off the defense. And you've already had a strong defense. That's obvious. Did everybody miss the Ohio State-Michigan game this past year? I thought Michigan had to cheat to beat Ohio State. Clearly not. Michigan has Ryan Day's number. Now, do I think Ryan Day will probably win next year? Yeah, I think he will. I think there's a lot of change-ups going on at Michigan. They've got some coaching changes. They got a lot of new players coming in, lots of new talent. I think Michigan lost a lot of its strong defensive players. I don't think it's going to be the same defense next year as it was last year. So what do I predict for Michigan next year? I think Michigan's a 10-2, possibly 9-3 football team next year. I really think that's an honest take. Only because they're kind of back to rebuilding again. They got new coaching staff. They're going to have freshman quarterback, who I don't know, could be the 5-star guy coming out of Belleville, Michigan. But he's going to be a freshman and he's going to make freshman mistakes. So that's just the way it goes. So yeah, do I favor Ohio State next year to win that game? Yeah, actually I do. I really do. I also look at the statistics of the Michigan and Ohio State rivalry, and that's kind of how it goes. If you look at the last 50 years of this rivalry, it's kind of tit for tat. This whole we beat you, we had your number for what, eight straight games. It's like, of course you did. We had 2 really awful coaches, and Lloyd Carr was pretty much reaching his retirement. He's phasing out. I mean, for crying out loud, his last year he was 7-5 when he retired, guys. Or no, I'm sorry, 9-4 when he retired. He was 7-5 in 2005, 11-2 in 2006, 9-3 in 2004. There was a lot of mediocrity in 2000 on up for Michigan. Not a whole lot of that in their late 90s. But make no mistake, guys, Michigan is a program. This is what I've always said about Michigan. There's college football programs that just kind of remain at the top. There's if you looked at it, if it was a line chart, and it goes up and it goes down, and it goes up and it goes down. And at the peak of that line is when you are your best, right? And you hope that your peak is a national championship level team. Okay. And then the dip, the lowest of the low, is kind of where you're back at square one. You don't see this sort of wavelength in the NFL because you have constantly developed talent. It's the best players in the world. But with college football, you're constantly getting new recruits. You got to recruit every 3 to 4 years. It's kind of speeding up now with the transfer portal and guys going to the NFL early. Although I suspect with the NIL deal being the way it is, some guys won't go to the NFL so fast because they're making more money in college. But I digress. If you look at, like, say, Georgia's wavelength, their peak is a national championship level team, right? But their low doesn't dip down that far, right? So let's just say 12-0 is the national championship level team, regular season 12-0. That's their peak performance level. And then maybe the following year you see a dip, but it only dips down to 11-1, right? And then it goes back up. And then, so that wavelength is tight. It's real short. Georgia doesn't have a huge rebuild mode kind of setting, like a reset, if you will. You contrast that to say like Ohio State. Now Ohio State might be the same thing. It goes up, they're a championship level team, they're 12-0, and then it dips down, right? Maybe it dips down a little bit lower, and that dip is just where they're recruiting new talent and developing. And as they're developing, that line goes back up towards that national championship level team. Some teams where they fall on that chart, they never get to the championship level. Their peak is 9-3, right? 8-4. And then they go back down to a losing season and rebuild from there. And it's every 4 years, right? Every 4 years they get up to their peak, and their peak might be 9-3. Get what I'm saying? Michigan, to me, has always been a school that loads up, develops that talent, has a few really great years, and then resets. And if you look at our record, especially since like 1985, since like 88, since I've been born, if you go from 88 on up, that's pretty much the case. You'll see like every 2 to 3 years, Michigan has a breakout year. So that's that low, right? So Michigan gets the talent, they develop it, they get to a national championship level team or close to a national championship level team. Those players graduate and leave on, and then they have to start all over again and rebuild. I said it. I said I would not be surprised if Michigan, that can change, right? That little line, that little sort of wavelength, I think could totally change with the NIL and transfer portal now. I think it could be much faster. I think Michigan has the ability now to reload quicker. Like Georgia and Alabama, they reloaded faster than anybody. Ohio State reloaded faster than anybody for the last 10, 12, 15 years. Hands down. There's some other programs in there you can mix into it for sure. But like Michigan's not a win it and reload right away kind of team. Michigan's always been we have a great season, whether we win a national championship or not, and then we start back over and we rebuild that talent level back up. I'm hoping with the NIL and transfer portal that could be a little faster now, and I think it will. I think Sharon Moore is a good coach. I think he'll do fine. I think. We'll see. But yeah, that's why I'm saying like Michigan won a national championship in 2023. Did I think they were going to go back and do it again the following year? No. Even I definitely knew they weren't going to when Jim Harbaugh and JJ left for the NFL. Okay. But I just knew like we lost a lot of talent. Some of the best talent we had on offense was all going to the NFL. I think we ended up losing like 12 guys to the NFL and all of our coaches except for Sharon Moore and all the staff. A lot of the staff went to the NFL. Jim Harbaugh took everybody with him or they went somewhere else. So, and for all you haters out there, look at Jesse Minter. He was the number one defensive coordinator in the NFL this past year. Yeah, I mean, let that sink in for a minute, right? Like this was some of the best talent. Like Michigan, the stars aligned for Michigan in the last 3 years. And it happens. It happened in 97 for them. Do I think it'll take another, I don't know, 20 some odd years for Michigan to win another national championship? No, because in the middle of all of that, there was chaos with Brady Hoke and Rich Rod. Jim Harbaugh has rebuilt the program. Now, assuming the NCAA doesn't come out here and hit Michigan with some crazy ass sanctions or, penalties or like recruiting, don't let them recruit or something like that. All in all, I think Michigan will do just fine. They'll be right back in it. I think Michigan will be a lot like Ohio State going forward. They're always going to be in the talk. They're always going to have the opportunity. They're going to recruit really, really well. I think Michigan will be between a 10-2 and 12-0 team most seasons, just like Ohio State now, because the program is back. It's been rebuilt, and you're now riding the wave of NIL and transfer portal as well. So not only did Jim rebuild the program, he's now the program has all these other benefits that they didn't have before. Because, I mean, think about it. Like, Michigan's an educational school. Like, you go to Michigan to get a good education. First and foremost, like, Michigan's known for engineering and healthcare. You want to be a doctor? You go to University of Michigan. You want to be an engineer? That's a great place to go. You got to be smart to get accepted into that school. So there's a lot of responsibility to being to going to that school beyond just football. And that program, they will hold you accountable there. You're not going to just go there and play football and skate through. So there's also that factor. And I think that was a huge factor for all of Michigan's, life. I think that's one of the reasons why Michigan has a longer reload period than some other programs, because there was that, you got to convince these guys to come to basically, like this Ivy League school. But anyway, I digress. That is what is going on. I think we should move on from it. I don't think we need to talk about it anymore. And I'm not saying that as a Michigan fan. I'm just saying that as, if whatever happens is going to happen. If the NCAA does bring a hammer, so be it. It's not going to change anything. Ultimately, anybody who knows football and has watched football, and anybody who's even kept somewhat of a half of an eye on Michigan, they'll know that, like, this was a fair and square one national championship. That season was fine. Ohio State even admitted to changing their signs. There's articles about that. There are coaches and people out there that said, if you aren't changing your signs up regularly anyway, you're crazy, because every coach knew that sign stealing was a thing. Like, people would get your signs. It's not hard. You're holding up a fucking sign. Oh, when they hold up this sign, this is usually what happens. Okay, write it down. You know what I mean? So sign changing was happening all the time. This is just, and again, I go back to, like, what are people saying and what are people doing around this? Again, the media kind of jumped on it when it was hot. The media then backed off and said, it's clear that there wasn't really that big of a deal. Michigan continued to do better. Most of the college football was pretty much like, yeah, whatever. The only people who are still talking about this are Ohio State fans. That's it, which blows my mind, because you just won a national championship. Why do you care what happens to us? Like, move on, get over it. You know what I mean? Like, you have won a national championship. Ryan Day finally did it, albeit it took them expanding the playoffs for you guys to get there, but you did it. Again, like, not an indictment on you guys when I say that. Like, I know that sounds like, oh, yeah, whatever. But it's like, no, you benefited the most. Like, the team that benefited the most from the expansion was Ohio State. Again, I think Ohio State was the best team in the college football, so it all kind of worked out. But if this was the same setup as the year before, Ohio State would have been sitting at home. They didn't even go to their conference championship this year. And that's an indictment on Ryan Day. That's not an indictment on you guys and your fan base or your program. That's an indictment on your coach, because he screwed the pooch and went he had a 2-loss regular season. You see what I'm saying? So be thankful that, this is the argument for why we needed to expand it, because some of the best teams were getting left out, right? We made that argument and it worked out. I do think there's some consequences to all of that, and I talked about that in a previous podcast. I think that the fact that now that really, rivalry games and conference championships and all that stuff really just doesn't matter anymore. I think that kind of kills college football. It's the ultimate death of it. I think it's and again, this has nothing to do with Ohio State, but I do think, like, if you don't win your conference championship and you're not beating your rivals, but you're still able to go on and be a national champion, I do think that's kind of, it's basically going to make the regular season more like the NFL, where it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Because, like, there's these supposable rivalries in the National Football League, but it doesn't feel like they don't feel the same. And it's kind of like rivalries in hockey or baseball. It's like, yeah, it's a rivalry, so, like, we kind of take it a little bit more seriously, and there's some banter back and forth. But for the most part, it doesn't really matter if you win or lose, because there's there's 80 more games, right? Or in the case of the NFL, it's like you can be a 3-loss NFL team and still go to the playoff and win the Super Bowl. So it's like really what you're playing for is sort of you're trying to beat the system, if you will. Like you're saying, okay, I've got to have this many wins over, blah, 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 and just do all these things to get to the Super Bowl. Or if I can't get to the Super Bowl, well, now I got to think about recruiting. So I need to set my team up for this. It's no longer really about the kind of the heart and the passion and all those things that you get with college ball that was so unique to college football, which was those rivalry games, because it just meant so much. I think you're going to start to see that go away. I think that's going to start becoming just a thing of the past. It'll just be a mention, right? It won't be such a big deal. I released a podcast a while back about point systems, which I think I thought that system to me was it was a pretty solid foundation to what could be the fix to college ball. It makes the rivalry important. It makes championship appearances, conference championship appearances, let alone a victory, important. And I think it saves some of the heart and the soul of college football. I think it will. Now, obviously, I'm just a nobody. I'm just a guy that runs a business out here in Georgia. I don't have any say in all that, but I thought it was a great idea. And I hope that somebody I hope people in the college football, the powers that be, I hope that they come together and they actually start to try to find a way to make all the games matter, make the regular season matter more, because the expanded playoff has changed that. And if they expand the playoff even more, which they're already talking about doing, I think they're talking about adding 2 more teams to it. At least there's rumors circulating. It's just going to further take away from the regular season even more. And it's sad. It makes me sad. It makes me sad to see essentially college football become NFL light. Part of the reason why I loved college football was there was this whole, these weren't professional athletes, right? These were guys who could be professional athletes. They were talented, but they had to be developed. They were there because they were all fighting for essentially the same things. They wanted to all go to the NFL. Most of them anyway. They all wanted to win a national championship. They want to win. They want to play their best. There's so much there. When you're playing for a goal like that, it changes how you perform versus like, I'm just here for a paycheck. You know what I mean? You think about it like, I'm here because I want to win a national championship. I want to write my name in history. I want to be a part of a team that wins a national championship. I'm here because I want to get developed and go to the NFL because I want to make the money, right? I want to play under the big lights and the big crowds and the big sponsorship, all that stuff. Like I want to be in the show. So I'm going to be here fighting my way to do that. And in order to do that, I got to be the best I can possibly be in this moment. Like I got to keep getting better. And that makes for compelling football. It makes for any kind of sport to be, in my opinion. When you're watching this young talent fighting to be the best they can be to get to the next level, you get the best football. But when you're in high school and you get told, I'll pay you $2, $3, $4 million, which, hey, Michigan's doing it. I get it. But we'll pay you X amount of millions of dollars to come play ball at our program. They didn't do anything to earn that. I mean, you could say they did. They're a top 5. They're a 5-star recruit. Okay. But to me, it takes a little bit of the passion. Because these guys, like, dude, Bryce Underwood's going to be making more money at Michigan as not even a starter. We don't even know if he's going to start next year. It depends on how he does in spring and summer practice. Like, we don't know. We have no idea. But he's going to be making more money than most quarterbacks starting out in the NFL. That's crazy. So where's the incentive? Why would I want to leave college football? Why do I just need to play well. They made me this contract. I'm going to make all this money. And not only that, I'm not only going to get all this money from this contract deal, But I'm going to go out and do ads. I'm going to go out and do car commercials and all this other stuff and make all this bag on top of that. And everybody in Ann Arbor is going to freaking love me, man, because I'm going to come in there. I'm the guy, I'm the 5-star quarterback, and everybody's going to pay me for my likeness, and I'm going to make all this damn money. And I'm going to, the one benefit I will say is like, you might get the guy for the full 4 years. Hell, you might get him for a 5-year just because he's making that much coin. You know what I'm saying? That might be the biggest benefit to it. But beyond that, it's like they're already getting the prize before they have done what they need to do to get the prize. The pay came in the NFL. Now, like, don't get me wrong. I think everybody should get paid for their name and likeness. Like, if you're a football player and you want to go do a commercial for a car dealership, then by all means, go for it and get paid. Like, make your bag. That stuff never bothered me. But the one thing they did is they abused that system, which we're humans, right? Humans, that's what humans do. Like, we find loopholes and everything. You can make a law and people will find loopholes around it. But, yeah, I don't know. I just think, what do you do to keep the soul of college football? Because there's no soul in the NFL, man. It's corporate. Like, it's soulless entertainment. And some people love the NFL, and good for you. I just can't get into it. I really can't. I'll watch the Super Bowl. I might watch the game if it's on a TV and I happen to be in the room, but I'm not going out of my way. And I'm afraid that that's the direction that college ball is going. And that makes me sad. But maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I am. But that is what I came on. I wanted to clarify in a sort of in a vocal way. I'm tired. Listen, I'm so sick and tired of getting into discussions with people on these college football pages, and it's like talking to children. Everybody needs to go outside and touch grass. Everybody needs to understand, like, none of this is important. You going on College Football Frenzy page on Facebook and talking shit, like, I get it. It's fun. Ha ha ha. We poke a little bit. But like, there's dudes on there like 72, 80 to 100 comments deep. And they just keep going back and forth every day. You are wasting your life. Like, go out and do something. Go get a hobby. Do you realize, like, nothing you're doing right now matters? You arguing with each other about, did Michigan cheat? Did Michigan not cheat? Did it help Michigan? Did it not help Michigan? Is a hammer coming? Is a hammer not coming? Blah, 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 blah. Like, it's fine if it's one or two. Like, I get it. Like, because we're all here just kind of busting each other's balls, and I'm here for it. Don't get me wrong. Oh, my team's better than your team. Haha, screw you. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But when it's like 80 to 100 comments, it's like, come on, guys. Like, you really, first off, you're never going to change each other's minds. Nobody's changing their minds. And you're just wasting your time. Put your phone down and go look at your wife or your husband or your kids. Go pet your dog. Go for a walk. Go put your bare feet in the grass and feel the earth. Like, just do something, because you're just wasting time, as far as I'm concerned. And it's sad. You're going to like look back at your life. You'll be like 80 years old on your deathbed. And you're going to be looking back and reflecting and go, man, I tell you what, the one thing you will say, the one thing you will not say, unless you're just completely delusional, which a lot of you Ohio State fans are, but the one thing you will not say is you're not going to sit there and go, man, I sure wish I argued with people on Facebook more. I sure wish I had the 89th comment in response to everybody talking about my football team. You're never going to say that shit. You're going to go, man, I really wish I'd gone here or done that or did this. Like, tried that hobby or started this business or went and seen that country or traveled more. Spent more time with my wife. Maybe gave her one more look instead of looking at my phone. That goes beyond everything. And I'm going to get into a PSA before I sign off. Put your phone down. Stop it. Everywhere I go. I mean, for crying out loud, man, I see 70-year-olds now. It used to just be the teenage kids, right? Like, you go to like a mall or a store or wherever, you're at an event, you just see the little teenager kids hunched over, but they're bad posture because they're just buried in their phone. And he used to go, man, these kids, they can't get off their phones. I see old ass people at the restaurant on their phones. I will go out to eat with my wife and we'll be sitting there talking to one another and we'll look around and everybody's on their phones not talking to one another. Get off the phone. You are going to wake up one day and you're going to be 80 and you're not going to have much time left. If God willing, you'll be 80. You may only be 60 and death is at your door. And while you're laying there and you're thinking about your life and you're reflecting back on it, you're going to think, there was so much I wanted to do and I didn't do it. And I don't know why. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll go, I guess I wasted a lot of time. And you know what? You probably did. I'm guilty of it too. First and foremost, I want to say this. I'm not perfect. I do these things too, guys. I death scroll just like everyone else. I get into that habit and I have to shake it off. I death scrolled for like 30 minutes when I woke up this morning just because I didn't feel like getting out of bed. I'm ashamed of it. All right. I don't want to talk about it, but I do it too. This is a reminder to you as much as it is a reminder to me. Like I'm reminding myself, go outside, do something, start a hobby, build something. Draw something. Go give your wife a kiss. Give your husband a kiss. Go pet your dog. Go stare at the trees. Look at the sky. Breathe it in. Take a moment to just absorb what's around you. Because we're so involved with arguing with people about politics and stupid shit like football on Facebook and social media. And we're so involved with just scrolling and watching endless content that we're completely cut off from the outside world. That we don't see what's going on around us. We're missing opportunities. We're missing opportunities just to engage with one another. And it's gotten so bad that most people don't even know how to talk to one another. Now, thankfully for me, I live in the South, where it ain't no thing to have a conversation with the waitress about how her mom is doing and everything that she's going through. And if she's in college or she's doing this and everybody's just chatting it up. There's my dog's barking. Speaking of dogs. It's nothing. That ain't no thing. I went to Florida for a conference and my dog is defending the house with her life. If you can hear it in the background. I went to Florida for a conference and we stayed a few extra days, just kind of made a little mini vacation out of it, go put our feet in the sand and look at the ocean. And everybody there was just so damn rude. They were disconnected. You couldn't talk to nobody. You couldn't make small talk. Even in a resort, everybody felt like they were just not happy. They just were very strange. Now, we did meet a couple people that stood out, and they were very nice. But for the most part, even the locals, it was just very weird vibe. And my wife and I said it to ourselves, we could not wait to get back to Georgia, where we took for granted the fact that you just cut up with anybody you meet. But we're losing that. Even here. And it's sad. And I think we all need to take a step back and put the phone down and just talk to one another. You know, have you thought about becoming an artist? Then go do it. Take a class. Instead of doom scrolling on your phone, sign up for Skillshare. Not a sponsored ad, by the way. Watch a YouTube video on how to draw or build or create and then go do it. Go get your hands dirty. You'll feel better. Your relationships will improve. Some of you might be on the brink of divorce, and the only reason why you're on the brink of divorce is because you guys just don't communicate anymore. If you just put your phone down and look at each other, maybe you guys would fall back in love. Who knows? But stop it. Stop fucking arguing about football and being 100 comments deep about whose team is better or not. Like, okay, you know who the best team was last year? Ohio State. By definition, is it necessarily the truth? No, because it's a whole archaic process and it's a weird process. But Ohio State won the national championship. Thus, they are the best team of the year. Move on. We're like, 4 or 5 months away from the next college football season kicking off. That shit will be here before we know it. You know what I'm saying? Summer's coming up. Go jump in a lake. Get over yourself. You know what I'm saying? Man, it felt good to get on here and just rant. I went an hour freaking long, and if you're still with me, I appreciate it. I need to do this more often, but it's been a crazy... I get crazy busy sometimes, and I don't have time to come on here, but I am so happy to be talking behind the mic again. And if you like this episode, share it with your friends. Drop me a comment on social media. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think I'm full of shit. Say Michigan did cheat and they're the worst and they deserve to lose everything. You can tell me that on social. I'm not going to listen to you because you're wrong. So, on that note, everybody, thank you so much for listening to The Rant. I love you, and I'll be back on soon. Take care.